Okay, so picture this. New York Fashion Week, right?
Yeah.
All the lights, the cameras, the big names, but behind all that glitz and glamour, sometimes there's, well, scandal.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into one of those scandals that kind of shook the fashion world.
Mm.
It's the Marc Jacobs Armory, well, debacle, I guess you could call
A
it.
debacle indeed.
So we've got a couple things to go off of here. We've got some snippets that we found online, and then also an article and a news piece about this whole thing. So the 69th Regiment Armory,
Yeah.
super desirable location, especially during New York Fashion Week. Everyone wants to be there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's prime real estate, especially during Fashion Week.
Talk about like making a statement, right? Like this is where you want to be.
Yeah, it's like if you're not at the Armory, like, are you even really a part of Fashion Week? I mean, that's kind of
Right.
that's kind of the feeling, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's interesting, this whole story, it kind of just unveils how competitive the fashion industry really is, below all the glitz and the glamour.
Yeah.
It's a tough world, and a venue like that can really make or break you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not everyone can afford to get into the Armory.
Right.
Like we're talking $6,000 a day to rent this place. So why was Marc Jacobs like consistently able to get in there? Year after year, he had a show there.
Well, and that's exactly it,
Suspicious?
That kind of exclusivity is a huge red flag in any industry, but especially in a field like fashion,
Right.
where, image and exclusivity they're like currency.
Yeah.
So when one designer, manages to snag this highly coveted spot over and over again, it's natural for people to start asking questions. And in this case, those questions, they uncovered a pretty serious bribery scheme, to say the least.
Okay, so let's get into that. So we're talking Marc Jacobs International,
Yeah.
right? And they were bribing the Armory's superintendent. His name was James Jackson. And, I mean, he was the one calling the just on who got access to the space.
Right, the gatekeepers.
Yeah, exactly. And what we learned is that they were paying him about $35,000 in cash and goods. And this was happening over a period of 7 years.
Wow, yeah, I mean that's not just a couple of free handbags,
Right,
This is a textbook example of bribery, They're giving money and gifts in exchange for this preferential treatment, this guaranteed access to the Armory, and the fact that it involves a public institution. I mean, that just adds another layer of wrongdoing to the whole situation.
Yeah, for sure. And there were some pretty big consequences for everyone involved. I mean, Jackson, not only was he caught taking bribes from other people too, but he ended up pleading guilty to grand larceny, which, for those who don't know, that's basically just a fancy way of saying he stole a lot of money.
Yeah, grand theft, basically.
Right. And, of course, bribery as well. And he was facing, like, a possible 15 years in prison.
Wow, that's a hefty sentence.
Yeah.
And, while Marc Jacobs himself, the designer, wasn't personally charged with any crime, his company, they had to cough up a pretty big chunk of change. They ended up settling with the state of New York for $1 million.
$1 million. That's not nothing.
No, it's definitely not a slap on the wrist. It shows how seriously the authorities were taking this whole thing. They weren't going to let this slide easily.
I mean, I guess when you think about it, they probably didn't want to fight it in court.
Right. Well, yeah, you have to think about the long game here. Going to court means years of legal battles, tons of bad press, and who knows how much more money down the drain. Settling, even though it was costly, it allowed them to control the narrative a little bit,
Yeah.
They could spin it as taking responsibility, moving on, and hopefully avoiding even more damage.
Yeah, the whole damage control thing. I get it.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, their business operations were monitored for 2 years.
Oh, yeah, that's right. By an outside firm.
Yeah, that's a big deal. It's almost like they're saying, look, we messed up. We're under new management now.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be on the up and up.
Yeah, a way of kind of reassuring everyone that they're, committed to doing things the right way from now on.
For sure, for sure. And, Andrew Cuomo, he was the New York Attorney General at the time. He released a statement. And I think this is important. He was talking about the reputation of the entire fashion industry and how important it is to protect that and, prevent this kind of corruption from happening.
Absolutely. I mean, this wasn't just some, small-time scandal. This had the potential to really tarnish the image of a whole industry,
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the bigger picture.
Right. So did Marc Jacobs, did he ever address this whole thing, publicly?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, his spokesperson, they put out a statement, very carefully worded, of course, expressing relief that the matter was resolved and really emphasizing their commitment to, preventing this kind of thing from happening again in the future.
Interesting. So no apology, just we're moving on.
Pretty much. I mean, that's kind of, classic PR, right?
Right.
You acknowledge the situation
Right.
without really admitting any guilt,
Right.
and then you quickly shift the focus to all the positive steps you're going to take going forward.
It's smart, I guess. But you know what's crazy about all this? This whole thing, this investigation, it all started because someone who was exhibiting at a carpet show, like totally unrelated, filed a complaint
No way.
about Jackson, about him extorting them for money. And that led to this undercover operation where they actually caught him red-handed.
Wow. So you're telling me that a carpet show is what brought down this whole, high fashion bribery scheme?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you how these things can unravel,
Yeah.
You never know what seemingly small event could lead to uncovering something much bigger.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that we all have a role to play in speaking up when we see something that's not right, Even if it seems like a small thing, you never know where it might lead.
That's true.
Yeah.
So what can we take away from all this? I mean, besides the fact that the fashion world is pretty ruthless.
I mean, it really makes you think about the price of success, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This whole case, it raises all these questions about fairness and ethical practices, especially in industries where exclusivity is so valued and there's so much competition.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get caught up in wanting to be in that in crowd,
Yeah.
and forget about playing by the rules.
Absolutely. So, I think it's worth asking ourselves, how do we create systems where success is actually based on talent and hard work?
Right.
Not, shady backroom deals and bribery.
For sure. That's a great question to think about. And hey, listeners, next time you're, trying to get those front row seats or that exclusive access to something, whatever it is, remember the Marc Jacobs Armory story? It might make you think twice about whether it's really worth it.
For sure. Food for thought.
Absolutely.
So for thought.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time.
See you later.
Bye.